Do you ever feel like you are great at everything except for things that you need to do?
Yes, yes, yes. All the time. It's like showering is such a big task for me and it just shocks me. There are some days when I prefer to go to a salon and spend like 800 rupees on a simple shampoo and blow dry because I don't want to shower
Do it
myself.
myself. I
Yes.
know. Oh my god. The amount of time I have told this to my neurotypical girlfriends and them looking at me in shock. Where they're like, नहाना तो रोज करते हैं ना, and I'm like, no. If I have showered, I feel like I've accomplished something in the day. So anyway, hi, my neuro mirchis. Again, I'm very awkward with introductions, but I have my friend Falak here with me today, and we spoke about ADHD women symptoms in the last video, and we have like a Jita Jagta example, and we're just gonna maybe bash this neurotypical patriarchal society a little bit. And yes, when we first met, me and Falak, she kind of went through the entire trajectory of how she was diagnosed with depression and anxiety and bipolar, and how the medicines she got fried her brain in a way. And I don't know, the first thing I said to you was, Falak, you should get checked for ADHD.
Go get a
Yeah.
diagnosis.
Because that is literally how it was for me, getting misdiagnosed again and again. Because again, with all the therapy and meds and all the support that we had even from our families, it was like it was not enough. It was like something was missing and there was a gap that needed to be filled, that was just not getting filled in a way, right? I could just get the pattern like that. I just read it right there, that there is something extremely wrong with whatever she was saying. I could just feel that happening. And because Falak comes from a medical background, I also had a pinch of doubt that okay, her parents both know of course better than me, so maybe it might just be that. But yes, please, I would want you to share your experience on how your diagnosis and everything went.
So basically, when I was 16, I was first diagnosed with depression and anxiety disorder. It was a complex between both of those because even my psychiatrists were like very, very confused about what is wrong with me. Even I was very baffled. So I changed so many psychiatrists, so many therapists in along the way of this journey, because the thing was, now that I look back at it, I get it what was wrong actually. So the thing was that none of their treatments were working on me and I was getting very confused कि भाई ये हो क्या रहा है, मैं दवाई ले रही हूँ कुछ हो नहीं रहा. I was getting frustrated, literally I was pulling my hair out. But now I get it, because the thing was that they weren't actually treating the root cause and they weren't hitting the G spot, as I would say.
Exactly. Because see, I know that I can't say you misdiagnosed me with anxiety and depression when I was anxious and depressed, but you could have gotten to the roots of what was causing my anxiety and depression, right? Is where a lot of professionals failed it for me also. Whether it was when I was 16, whether when I was 18, when I was 22, finally getting diagnosed at 20 later after going through a hell for like 4 months, right?
Yeah, so the same thing was with me. They were just treating the symptoms and they were not addressing the root cause. Now that I look back at it, I realized कि भाई I was just a neurodivergent person, and not reaching the diagnosis phase and not getting the help that I needed was actually making me anxious, was making me, very much depressed sometimes. So there were like phases in my life.
So how was it with your parents, given they are from a medical background?
So my parents were quite supportive when I used to tell them that this psychiatrist is not working out for me, I'm not getting similar results. They just, as any parent would do, they would be like कि चलो हम change कर लेते हैं, किसी और का opinion we can take, always take. They were just trying to be helpful, and because they used to understand my issue, because they were also from medical background, both of them are doctors. So I got lucky that way, that they were quite supportive of my dilemma.
Yeah, I think in the entire thing that happened was, whether I was listening to you, I just felt like even people who come from like the medical background, like your parents, plus you are a physiotherapist yourself, so you have been a medical student where you have been surrounded by professors and all of that who had knowledge about, say, disorders, diseases, everything medical, in terms of like medical terms is what I'm saying. So they had basic awareness of what mental health or neurodivergence or ADHD is, even in the slightest, right? And it just baffles me that nobody could pinpoint that, right? Or even think of it. Maybe it was not the case with you, but it was, and still nobody could actually just even give a hint of you should try getting tested for ADHD or things like that, when you were actually struggling so much with meds and all of your symptoms were procrastination and dealing with a lot of emotional dysregulation. Which brings me to how symptoms in ADHD in women for ADHD are so different than in men, and all the stereotypical symptoms that even the people that are aware of only know how it shows up in men, like it's being hyperactive, it's being impulsive, it's being loud, it's being constantly interrupting and just jumping around like that. But for us, how it's so much more internal, where we are just sitting and not being able to function for days at end.
I think part of it stems from societal expectations from women. So basically, since our childhood, we are being told to act in a certain way. Like, you are a girl, you can't do this, you can't do that. And we have also observed our mothers, our elder sisters, our cousins behave in a certain way. So basically, that pressure is always set upon us. So we can't be ourselves all the time like boys can. So that is one of the reasons why mainly the symptoms, getting overshadowed, or people just saying she is very normal, but I'm not normal. I'm just masking myself really very well, because society makes us believe that this is perfect, this is not. Yes. This is normal, this is abnormal. And for women to act abnormal is worst. Yes. Because how society sidelines them, even after masking very well, I was getting sidelined by the society, because in some or other way they used to find me very weird. So I don't know if I wouldn't have been masking, what would be the case, or what would have been the case. I don't know.
Yes, that does kind of make me reflect on a lot of things of how even neurotypical women, okay, we will not even talk about neurotypical or neurodivergent, because women in India are just kind of suppressed, no matter whether you come from a privileged background or not, right? It's always, if you're not from a very orthodox society, maybe it could not be about your clothes, but about how you're speaking, about what kind of people you hang out with, what are your hobbies, right? And all of those aspects. So I think growing up, maybe I would have wanted to do something that I could not, because I'm a girl. Even now, I live alone in a city, and at 2 a.m. I get this, just a big pang of energy where I feel like I want to just go around, take a walk, have a run, come back, but I don't have that privilege because it's 2 fucking a.m. and we live in India, a country which isn't safe for us, yes, right? Exactly. Again, maybe I want to drive really fast, but I know there are potholes in the fucking road, so I really can't drive that fast, right? Yes. So all of our symptoms, in a way, living in a country which does not give us the space to be ourselves, plus a society which is that patriarchal and misogynistic, that we have always been suppressed, कि हमें दबाया ही जा रहा है in all aspects, right? Like, you're jumping around, you should look down, you should behave well, you should not, spread your legs and just sit like that, sit like a lady, talk like a lady, eat like a lady, all of that. Yeah. And a male kid, a boy, is fine being naughty. They would find it charming. Even if there is a boy who jumps around a lot, they would be like, oh, he's very sporty and he's very, very athletic. But at the same time, a girl being that is considered too much
manly, cowboy types, and there are so many labels. Another thing is कि since childhood मेरी मम्मी का एक रूल था कि तुम्हें सुबह इतने बजे उठना है, and of course school तो एक था ही factor for me to wake up early, but even after going through that college phase I was forced to wake up early. So yeah, ये भी एक चीज़ होती है कि हमारे घर में ही इस टाइप का environment होता है कि भाई तुम लेट उठो and ये सब नहीं चलता.
Exactly, and I think we have been guilt tripped so much ever since we were very young कि now we kind of walk around eggshells all the time with, should I do this or not? Will this get me into trouble? Am I being girly enough? Like, is this how I have to act or not? Right? So adding to whatever dilemma we are in our heads because of our neurodivergence, where we are not even acting like our peers, right? We feel like an added thing of being a certain way and acting a certain way, and that does add to us just not being ourselves ever since childhood. Like, I think right now, Falak, I do not even know who I am as a person.
Even I don't know. Like, we all are figuring out, right? There is a certain phase, and I think we all change as a person. And especially being neurodivergent, the thing is in word itself, right? Divergence, okay? Like, we are very different. एक्चुअली तो हम लोग तो चेंज होते ही रहेंगे बिकॉज यू नो इवन आवर हॉबीज चेंज फ्रॉम टाइम टू टाइम वी डोंट होल्ड ऑन टू वन पर्टिकुलर हॉबी तो इससे ही बहुत पता चलता है
Don't even talk about that. I remember when I was getting my diagnosis, my parents were on video call with my psychiatrist, and I was, added on the call for a brief amount of time, and like we were having a chat, and the doctor was asking questions. Like the doctor, she asked my mom, would she pick up things and not, start them or just not be able to finish them? And my mom got so excited, and she was just jumping in the call. Yes, I got her a guitar. I put her to karate class. I was taking her to dance classes. She had a singing teacher. She had an art teacher. सब चीज़ करके छोड़ दिया. 2 महीने 3 महीने मन नहीं है. She had so much potential. She would not do anything, right? And I'm like, right there. It's right there. That's how ADHD manifests in women.
Yes.
You just need to notice the patterns and actually give us that space to, do things.
Yes,
Even like right now, every time I'm on Instagram, I would open. I think like with your house also, we can see so many things. Just you don't even use them; it's just there.
It's
right?
just
I
there.
open Instagram, I see something cute. I'm like, my life will only be complete if I have this in my house
Yes.
at this right moment.
that is the case with me and my mom used to say this on repeat कि for falak it is like it's a Gujarati proverb नवा नवा नव दिवस मतलब कि 9 days तक ही वो इसका excitement रहेगा फिर it will be like कि vanish मतलब 9 days she'll be amazing in dance class she'll go regularly and suddenly she'll start sleeping in at that time कि भाई मम्मी नींद आवे छे.
Given that phrase, what other labels have you heard growing up?
लेजी है शी इज़ वेरी केयरलेस है ना फलक ना कहीं ठिकाना ज ना होय मतलब कि फलक का कुछ कह ही नहीं सकते शी इज़ वेरी अनप्रिडिक्टेबल and you know stuff like that. I have always been labeled as lazy most of the time. If you ask anybody from my family to describe Falak, they'll be like lazy.
Yeah, I know. I have been called lazy and calm chore so many times.
Yes.
Because I would be very creative with my excuses when I'm given a task to do than to just go ahead and do the fucking task. I'm like, I have this, that. So like by this point, I know everybody around me just knows me as that I am an unreliable person कि मुझ पे किसी भी चीज़ के लिए डिपेंड ही नहीं कर सकते because they know कि Vanshita might forget, she might not do it, she might do it wrong and all of that things, right? And this also kind of I would like to highlight why we get misdiagnosed so much is because if we are lazy and inattentive and careless and we want to lie around all the time and whenever we go in for a diagnosis for ADHD we are generally asked are you hyperactive, right? And then we go back and then think no we have always been called lazy so I'm not hyperactive, right? But the hyperactivity is here where when we are lying down and we are being lazy as how they have been calling us, it's like our brain is running 10,069 thoughts at once.
Yes.
Right?
There are so many tabs open in my mind literally all the time.
Exactly. And see, there is one thing, being lazy is intentional. Or maybe even if it's genetic or whatever. See, there are days when I am lazy. Okay, where I know I have to do this, but I feel like not doing it because I don't want to. I want to sit down and binge watch a movie or a series, and I know I'm being lazy, and I don't feel very guilty about it. I'm like, okay, I have taken this day to rest, and I want to do this. But whenever I've been called lazy, most of the times I'm not being lazy because I'm non-functional and not lazy. Where I want to do the thing, it is literally haunting me. My to-do is just, circling around like this. Like a very bad voice inside my head, ki Vanshita, you have to do this, but you haven't gotten to it. So that's not being called lazy because I'm not enjoying it.
Yes, we are not.
Yeah, exactly. I feel being called lazy and careless growing up has also made us chronic people pleasers. Or do you have something to say on that?
Yes, it has made us chronic people pleasers because since childhood we have been labeled as weird, lazy, careless, and that makes us go into that alert mode, that constant our mind is on alert, and then we try to make people happy and we try to compensate for our weirdness that people perceive of us. Coming to that point, I also want to talk about how neglected we feel in school. basically. And I think that neurodivergent kids are more prone to bullying in school as well, and we also have, you know, very difficulty holding up friendships as well. That's what I think. What do you have to say about that?
I think another symptom in ADHD women is emotional dysregulation, where we do not understand what we are feeling. A lot of times I've been so angry, but I just don't know at whom or at what, right? I'm sad out of no reason. I'm just happy and I just don't know what's happening, right? And that makes emotions and relationships hard because we are inattentive, or we have so much going on. We forget to call back people, we forget to text back, we ghost people unintentionally, right? We do not have the energy to be at some place at the right time. We forget. We have no memory whatsoever. Like I am a big forgetter. I think my mom, she has called me bhulakkad more than she has called me one shoe in my life. Even now, I think recently there was Rakhi, and I'd ordered a watch for my brother and he didn't like it very much. He was like, okay, I'll order another one. So he told me on text कि ये return कर देना, and I was like fine. And then 4 days later he texts me again कि मम्मी ने बोला उस भुलक्कड़ को याद दिला दो, return में डालना है वरना window close हो जाएगा. And I'm like okay, but now like I think my family has stopped taunting me. They have started roasting me, which I would take. I am fine with being roasted. The taunting is what would really get to me, because I would feel like okay, I suck at this and I am a bad person.
Yes.
How has your family, say, adapted after your diagnosis?
So I am not currently living with my family, so I don't know how they would adapt. I don't know yet. I don't know. I don't have answers yet. But yes, I have told my parents to research more on ADHD. They have like psychiatrist friends as well, so I've told them to consult them once and know more about it, because I don't have energy to explain every single thing to them. I'm currently living with my husband, and honestly, this guy has been a blessing. Like he has adapted to my ADHD thing. Like he understands this, that I need to remind this girl to do every single thing. Like let's talk about the sleep night time. So he reminds me to sleep on time. जैसे ही 2 बज जाते हैं, he is like Falak, you have to sleep, keep your phone down, वरना मैं 4 बजे तक जग लूँ. I have that potential.
Oh my god, I need this blessing in my life. But again, I know I am too emotionally dysregulated right now in my life to have a partner. But yeah, whatever. You go, girl.
And then he wakes me up in the morning, and then he reminds me to brush my teeth. Falak, तुमने brush किया? First thing I do when I wake up in the morning is मैं AirPods लगाती हूँ, songs सुनने लगती हूँ, and बस उसी loop में घूमती हूँ. Then it's like he's like, Falak, you need to have your chai on time.
Come
Go.
out of your music video in your head thing. You're not the main character anymore.
Yes. And he's like, जाओ brush करो. And then it's like he'll be like, Falak, chai pee. And then afternoon time comes and he is like, Falak, did you have your lunch? Let's have lunch. चलो हम लोग दाल गरम करते हैं, खाते हैं. And पूरे दिन उसका ऐसे ही चलता है nowadays, that he just keeps checking up on me, which is super nice. And he has also adapted the surroundings according to me. For example, doctor has told him that she might have some panic attacks, so keep the fidget balls and stuff like that around her, like those bubble toys and stuff like that. So he has also ordered those, and he's also trying to understand what exactly ADHD is, and he's trying to read more on that and trying to be supportive.
So sweet.
Yes, and most importantly, like even when I was going through anxiety and depression, my own mother has tried shaming me sometimes, okay? No hard feelings for her. She had her own issues at that time, so I don't blame her for that. But my husband has never tried to shame me or belittle me for having this thing. Instead, he has been an ally, and he has been incredibly supportive about it.
That is so nice, because I know I struggle this in terms of that most of my friends are aware about mental health and they know that I have ADHD, and even then they would still not understand that some things are not my habits, they are my symptoms, right? It might manifest as Vanshita doesn't care or you didn't call us back, but I'm like, you know why I didn't call you back. It was either I have seen your missed call. It's not like I've ignored you. It's here, it's just rotating right here, right? And I know I have to call you back, but I just can't get myself to call you back. So a second call would not hurt you, right? That's there. Because when it comes to me giving, to people in my life, to friends or partners or my family, I know that I would not mind calling them 4-5 times also, right? Even if they have not returned my calls, because I understand, because I've been in that space where I know that I do not have the energy to pick a call or reply back or say wish them a happy birthday, right? And so for people who understand this, I love you all. I know you are here watching me. And for people who don't understand it, again, I would try my best to keep educating them. Like, I do not want to make it like, just go away, I do not want to talk to you. I'm like, I understand there is a severe crisis of not having awareness in this country, and because people feel it's such an alien term for them to just understand that different brains work differently, right? It's that simple to just, I don't know, like, just grasp. Different eyes work differently, right? You have different eyes that work differently, I have eyes that work differently, people who are watching may have eyes. So if some organ of your body can work differently, why not the brain? It's also an organ, right? Give it some rest.
Absolutely.
Right? And that's there. And given all this, have you ever felt like you have low self-esteem or very low confidence growing up? Because I've always felt that.
Yes, all the time. Because the thing is that people used to say she has so much potential, and still, she is not being able to perform academically.
Not living to your
Yes, and it was so embarrassing for me that I used to go under the rabbit hole. I used to spiral down, and I used to be like, what is wrong with me? Why are people not understanding that no, maybe I don't have that potential, or even if I have that potential, my motor responses are not working in that manner. Like, how do I explain this to people? And also, one thing I had faced was back in childhood when I was in school, during my teenage years, basically, not during my childhood, sorry. So I used to say weird stuff to people without thinking twice.
Okay.
So, for example, if there is some friend going on, I'll joke about something and they'll look at me like
They would
this.
get offended.
They'll be offended, or they'll just find it weird. They'll, give me some weird look.
And you would not realize that you said
Yes,
something wrong.
and there was some, other behavioral things also that were quite weird with me that pushed away my friends far from me. Also, I had multiple anxiety attacks and panic attacks, basically. So that is also one more thing that I think my then best friends have distanced themselves from me, because they basically thought of me as very unpredictable, dangerous, or weird person to be around who can rot your brain.
I would say that, Falak, you're still lucky that you were still labeled weird, because that means that you had a part of yourself that was still out and loud about how you were. Growing up, I have always been that quiet kid where I wanted to say a lot of things, wanted to do a lot of things, but there was just something that held me back, which was an external, as if somebody's just holding me all the time, right? And I grew up so severely underconfident where even now when I know I'm right and I have to say something and stand up for myself, I still feel like it takes me so much more effort than it would take somebody to normally do that. So since like your parents are in the medical background and all of that, so how was it for you when you were misdiagnosed with depression and anxiety? So of course they were there with you entire, because you had gotten it in your teenage years, if I'm not wrong. Yes, so how was it? Like, how were the conversations around at that time?
Basically, the conversation shaped around how are we going to plan a better future for Falak, and my dad was building a retirement fund especially for me, because according to my mother, my dad didn't think so, okay, originally. He was always hopeful about me, but according to my mother, you should always have an emergency fund for a daughter, क्योंकि इससे शादी कौन करेगा, क्योंकि मम्मी लोगों की एक्चुअली टेंशन ये होती है. सो माई मॉम वाज ऑलवेज वरीड कि भाई ये ऐसे बिहेव करती है, इसको हम किससे भी शादी करवा देंगे तो उसकी लाइफ बर्बाद हो जाएगी. शी यूज्ड टू से थिंग्स लाइक दैट, व्हिच इज क्योंकि मुझे कॉन्स्टेंट एंग्जाइटी अटैक्स, पैनिक अटैक्स आ जाते थे. आई यूज्ड टू misbehave with my parents, with others around me, right? I had difficulty holding friendships, I had difficulty holding relations with my relatives and all. I always had a rough patch with them. I still don't share good relations with some of my relatives because because I have always been outspoken like that. I used to speak things, I used to speak my mind without thinking twice. I was unapologetic and I was very frank like that. And to add up, these anxiety attacks were like very bad. So my mother used to be like, bhai ye kisi ko maar waar de, right, agar shaadi ho gayi to. Yeah, so that is like, she used to find me very dangerous for people around me. So she used to have these things ki isse shaadi kaun karega. Then she used to tell my father ki let's not make these things very public, because you know there is some sort of stigma attached to mental health. Even though she is a doctor, she used to think like that. And at least I feel lucky that I was privileged enough to get timely treatment, and you know I got to choose psychiatrists and all, and my parents were actually very active about that. But my heart goes out to multiple people who are still not being diagnosed because their parents just refuse to believe that something is wrong with them. They label them as, you know, काला जादू किया है किसी ने, किसी की नज़र लग गई है, something राहु दोष है, ये है वो है ना. And they'll go to these jyotishes and spend lakhs in pujas and karm kand and all, but they won't take help from professionals, you know. So my heart goes out to those people, because even after having doctor parents, a privileged background, I have faced a hell lot of mental stigma, जहाँ मेरे distant relatives ने मेरे पीठ पीछे मुझे पागल तक बुला दिया है, you know. So I can't imagine what others in India might be going through right now. We need, like, really need more awareness on this. Desperately need more awareness on this.
Absolutely, because I think अगर the same thing happened with like a guy, they would probably say कि इसकी शादी करा दे, इसके baby संभाल लेगी, right? Because I have heard that happen so many times. It's just like two different sides of the same coin, where like we are always treated as the fixers. So of course we can't have any defect in us, right? It's like we are objects and we are made to fix somebody's life, right? And then इसीलिए when we grow up having issues with, say, procrastination, or you know we struggle with managing our emotions or managing time, or you know just juggling between so many things at once, or being very outspoken, being rebellious, it's like, okay, ये तो defective माल है. Like she was supposed to be a fixer for a guy. Yes. How can she act like this, right? And so it's not always loud like that. For you, I think you were called names on your face, and that's like, I'm so sorry that happened. And for me, because I got diagnosed recently after moving out, after I started living alone and all of that. So like my parents never really, you know, had to go through all of that, where I was on meds or I was taking sessions and all of that. I was in therapy before that at home when I was with my parents, but it was like online, and I would always say I have a meeting, and they don't even know that I was in therapy at that time. So I can understand the conversations that would have happened, you know, if ever they would have told my relatives up front, because now that they see that I'm making content online and I'm talking about something called ADHD, I do, you know, get to face a lot of roasts and also taunts in the guise of कि हम तो मजाक कर रहे हैं types. Right, where
I didn't mean it.
Exactly. Right. Also, where I feel like even my cousins who are from the same generation also are like, you know, Vanshita, you just need a routine. It's not that hard and all of that. Where they're, you know, adding more to my problem. But then again, as I said, like for now, I think I have put off that rage which I feel towards people like that, and I feel more empathy when I'm like, you need more awareness and knowledge. So let me educate you. Please keep watching my videos. Maybe
keep watching her videos.
Yeah, maybe after 15 videos you would at least understand that you don't have to taunt us like that.
Yes, absolutely, yaar.
So like after my diagnosis, I felt like I know my life is not like, oh, happy-go-lucky and perfect now. I mean, I think I still have struggles, and I've added more to it, where I'm trying to discover myself, understand my symptoms, understand my brain, try to create a life that accommodates me and my needs. How has it been for you? Like post, you know, now that you're taking treatment for it, now that you have a certain label of why you are the way you are.
So basically, I've seen a drastic reduction in my overcompensation tactics. Okay. Yeah, I've stopped doing that, and I have started understanding my boundaries and where I need to draw that boundary and when I need to say no to people. Okay. Like, I don't want to go out, and I have started being unapologetic about it. I no longer feel guilty because I know that is not meant for me. That's it. And if I go there, I'll not feel better. I have started accommodating better to my needs or what I truly need. I've started understanding that, and I've also observed this one thing, that I have started changing my surroundings according to my needs. Actually,
Also cutting off some people, very important.
yes.
Would you like to share a couple of hacks maybe that you have recently taken up, whether it's in terms of like your diet or in something in your physical environment?
So basically, many people don't know, but I'm raw dogging my ADHD without medications. So of course, incorporating some hacks for, inculcating some focus and sanity in my life has been an essential part of my post-diagnosis transformation. So basically, regarding diet, I have started drinking mushroom coffee in the morning, and yes, I have started including more protein in my diet as well, because I read that protein is really good for our brains. Also, I no longer have coffee empty stomach every single morning. I start with fat and then a proteinaceous breakfast. I've consciously started incorporating more protein in my diet.
Again, I would like to add that it's not always realistic to not have coffee in the morning. If you feel like you would not have anything, then a coffee is good.
Yes, 60% of times I have observed that I just have a coffee, and that's it. Recently, I have also started incorporating this mushroom coffee, and honestly, the Lion's Mane mushroom blend is working for me. Cordyceps one didn't work well for me. Another thing I've started doing is I've consciously started to reduce my sugar intake, because that was something which was making me hyperactive, sugar rush and all, and there were like insulin spikes, and then suddenly there was a crash after having a sugary drink or something like that. So yeah, I've also decided to reduce my sugar intake.
So yeah, you can also go ahead and decide if you want to take this decision or not. I have tried and miserably failed. So now I think I've done more of, instead of cutting down sugar, tried to alternate them with other things. So I'm not sure if honey and jaggery are healthier, because some people online and some research studies say they are better, some say they are not. But there is also this monk fruit, and there's this new brand. I'm forgetting the name, but I think I will put out the product link or website, whatever, here. And I think that is a good, healthier alternative for sugar. I think personally for me, sugar does help me sometimes, just be on the get-go, where I'm like, okay, I can't do without a sugar. If I don't have something sweet right now, I will just think about having something sweet. So it's better to just have something sweet and have other things in my brain.
Another thing that has helped me a lot is connecting with fellow neurodivergent people. So I attended a meetup that you took me to, and you introduced me to them, and those were like amazing people. I saw patterns in them that were actually hidden in me, and I was actively masking those patterns. And when I saw them actually doing those behavioral patterns, I felt so free that okay, this can be my safe space. I was still masking. It didn't stop me from masking actually, but yes, I was fidgeting and I was not feeling guilty about it anymore, and I was like, slowly and steadily with these people, I will learn how to unmask myself completely in a particular space, and I'll be feeling less drained from socializing and all, because socializing with neurotypicals has always been very draining for me for some reason. Like when I come home, I've done nothing. Okay, I've attended that matcha meetup and that's it. I was some matcha and no hard work. कैब में गई, कैब में आई. Okay, but still I was like, घर आते ही I was very tired. Somehow, while interacting with neurodivergent people like me, I didn't feel like that.
I'm not sure if you know that ad. I don't know if it's Rasna or what, but there is this one ad, right, where kids are playing and then there's a straw and the sun is sucking the energy out of them. Yes. That's how I feel around people, where I just have to pretend a lot and put on 2 layers of mask maybe. One mask is something that I'm trying to get off. It's always there with me. But then there's one more mask that I know that I just can't, not have in front of certain people, because they would just not understand why am I fidgeting all the time. So I have this habit of just scratching. Okay, I think I'm doing that even now. So scratching here, for no reason, because I have to do something. So I play with my hair a lot. I always need something to fidget with. And it's the reason why I got like fidgets, because I was like, okay, I know we are just gonna start doing something with the sofa, and I'm like, I don't want to pull out the cotton from your cushions. So like those things, I completely understand. You know, the diagnosis also brings you more awareness, and then you can change your environment and your company intentionally, and that helps so much.
Exactly. That helps a lot. Because diagnosis made me realize that me falling asleep after having a cup of coffee is normal for me because I have ADHD. So that gave me that insight, and now I started having a coffee which has L-theanine, and that जो caffeine crash होता है वो थोड़ा सा L-theanine prevent करता है, and mushrooms actually help with focus. So I started having a coffee that actually works for me. So diagnosis was indeed very life changing for me, and now I've started to feel less guilty about my behavior because मुझे ऐसा लगता था यार मैं इतनी अलग क्यों हूँ, पर अब मुझे पता चला कि I don't belong to a certain group, and that's why I'm different, and it's okay. People are built different, as you said. Everybody is different. There should be no shame in admitting that I am different and I'm not built like others.
Yes, I would also like to say, when we say we are built different, I don't mean I have a superpower. The amount of time I have gotten pissed off because somebody said, especially I've heard this more from medical professionals, which is also a problem because I've heard from countless therapists that, oh, ADHD is a superpower if you use it well enough.
Bullshit.
No, if this is making me not shower and not being able to brush my teeth, how is it a fucking superpower? Just because I can accomplish a lot of things and get done with a lot of things in one night that usually people would take, say, a couple of weeks to get done with. But after I'm done with that, the next 20 days I am just like a sloth where I'm not being able to do the basic of tasks. That does not make it a superpower. So stop saying that. Yes, please stop saying that.
And then people are like, you have such a nice memory, you can memorize anything, you remember so many things. Like sometimes even Satyam was shocked कि तुझे वो कैसे याद है, ये कैसे याद है. And I was like, भाई याद है. And then recently my mother pointed that, yeah, ADHD, I read, my mother has started reading more about ADHD, watching more videos, and she was like कि भाई I read कि ADHDers have like very good memory, और मैंने तेरे में notice किया है कि you have a nice memory, and तो तू पढ़ाई में क्यों नहीं अच्छी हो पाई. And I'm like, mom, what's the use of that photographic memory when you can't even focus for like 5 minutes? Like मैं book खोल के बैठती हूँ and मैं अलग ही दुनिया में transport हो जाती हूँ. I didn't have phone back in school. Okay, we didn't have smartphones. पर उसके बिना भी I was like, it was super easy to distract me. So that is ADHD. It's not a superpower. Okay, memory का कोई use नहीं अगर तुम focus ही ना कर पाओ. You're always hyperventilating.
Yeah, so the thing with ADHD being called a superpower is that we do have a lot of capabilities, like having potential, having creativity, having photogenic memory and all of that. But the thing is, those capabilities are not in our control. You cannot turn it on and turn it off. It randomly comes in and randomly goes away.
Yes.
So right now I know that I have to remember something. So since morning my mom has called me twice and I know I have to call her back, and so I've put an alarm so that after we are done with this video, the alarm will go off and then I'll call her, right? And there are chances if I don't have an alarm, I will just forget calling her, and then she would sulk for 10 days that you didn't call me back. And I know that randomly I would just be sitting and then remember a fun fact about elephants or frogs. And then if I'm sitting with my friends, I would just tell them, you know what, frogs have this or something, and they're just like, okay, where did that come from? But now that they have started understanding me more, they're just like, okay, she's just gonna yap for 5 minutes about some random stuff.
Yes.
And they just listen to me, right? So it's like the capabilities are not in our control. So whenever I get a productivity pang, I make the most of it, but I know that it's not in my control. I've actually stopped myself to, like forcefully really do something which I know that my brain would just not do. I'm like, fine, I know it's not gonna focus right now, so I'll just take a break and instead do something else.
That brings me to one more question, Vanshita, that what do you think are the challenges for neurodivergent women, especially in India? Because I think we have a very minority status, because majority of Indian women with ADHD are not diagnosed yet, which is a very big challenge. And what do you think about this and how it is impacting women who actually have ADHD? Because I myself got diagnosed at the age of 25, despite being from a medical background, despite being a doctor myself.
Yes. Exactly. So it kind of baffles me because even with getting diagnosed, I still don't feel like I am living a life that I want to live. Like I still aspire to have a life that I would want to live. And for people who do not even know, for women who do not even know why they are the way they are, I just can't even begin to imagine the struggles they are going through, right? That is one. Because, there are so many people I hang out with on a daily basis because I'm very social, selectively social. And then there are a series of events that, kind of give me an idea that, okay, this people gives me a flavor of, being neurodivergent. I'm like, this person seems neurospicy to me. But then again, of course, I'm not a professional. But the thing is that when you are an ND yourself, you also happen to notice traits. Like how I did with you, like how I did with a couple more people. Not just couple, actually a lot of people. Like in my friend circle or more than that I've just upfront told them because I was given that safe space where I told them, see, I think you might have ADHD. I'm not diagnosing you again. It's just from what I've observed, it might help to go get a test done. And it has never happened that I have advised somebody to go for a test and they have not turned out to be ND. I'm not trying to brag here, but I'm just telling that, having a neurodivergent tell you that you might be neurodivergent is a big thing in itself. And I think that is the reason why this channel exists, because I'm like, of course, I can't go individually to everybody, but what I can do is maybe spread awareness on a large scale, right? Other than that, I am also like conducting meetups in Bangalore, going to neurodivergent meetups, meeting a lot of more people, trying to reach as many people as I can is all I can do at this point in life. And I really, really wish that we reach a stage in this country or in the entire world where, where teachers start diagnosing kids or maybe noticing their patterns, right? Because if my patterns were noticed back in school, because they were very visible in terms of me not submitting my homework on time, me coming up with excuses, me sleeping in class, me looking out the window. Whenever my parents have, gone to parent-teacher meeting, they have never gotten complaints of that, she's a bad student in a way where, I'm a bad person. It's mostly of like, she is absent-minded. She is careless, she forgets, only pays attention in the subjects that she feels interest in, like language subjects, social sciences. Maths and science teachers hated me, English and Hindi teachers loved me, even Assamese teachers. They were like, okay, Vanshika is such a brilliant student, and the other teachers would be like, she does not study. Even my science teachers would say she has a lot of potential because in class she is active, right? If we read out something to her, she understands it.
Yes.
But during exams, I don't know why she just does not perform.
Yeah, because we just freeze. That is what. And the thing is कि एक और चीज़ I've noticed with me is, for example, exams are going to be conducted within 15 days. That's the time frame. I don't start studying. I don't.
15 days is too far.
That's it. Oh, what about studying a night before? Yes, that sounds like a great idea.
Or like 5 hours before the exam.
Yes.
So I would have exam at 9 a.m. and then I would sleep at say 8 p.m. at night, put an alarm for 2 or 3 a.m. Then I would wake up and then I would study and directly go to school. And I have passed with flying colors doing that.
Yes, I have never been academically bad student, okay?
I've been like in the middle.
Yes, always in the middle. Always stuck in the middle. So it's like, it's a confusion between if I'm good or I'm just the worst.
Yeah.
Either be one at least. And I have also never been very good at sports. It has always been in between. Because I
I've
can't.
never really been enthusiastic about sports because
Same.
it's a lot of, I don't know, stimulation for me, a lot of competition for me and a lot of eyes on me. So I can't go run when there are going to be like an audience watching me. I just feel very weird when there are people who are going to like perceive me. I'm like, no, you're only going to perceive like how I want you to perceive me.
Also, I think that being a woman with ADHD in India makes you navigate through multiple layers, basically, that are like obstructive layers, okay?
Given you are a woman, given you come from a patriarchal society, then you are neurodivergent, so you don't understand yourself. You cannot live up to the society's rigid, rules that are being made for you. And then, on and on and on. I could just, go on.
Even healthcare has, limited accommodations for neurodivergent people, which makes it even worse. And also, societal expectations are so bad that women are often pressurized to, act in a certain way. You have to be very presentable. You have to be neat and clean. Your nails can't be like this. Your nails have to be chopped all the time. Your teeth have to be sparkling white. And these are the things.
It's like we're never enough.
Yes, we are never enough actually. So basically, society's scrutiny is so worse for us, especially for us like women, that it often forces us into, inconvenient living standards. It just makes matters worse as a woman?
It does. It's like even if you're excelling at something, it's still not enough because you cannot do your basic things. But for a guy, being a brilliant genius, but he's a little quirky because he does not comb his hair before coming to an event, or he wears the same outfit all the time. But we don't have that privilege to show up to a party without freshly combed hair, or without brushing our teeth or without showering. For us, that's not a quirk, that's a defect. Like we had discussed before.
Even if a woman is very successful at her work, she is perceived as dirty if she doesn't come to a party dressed up like a doll. But for men, it's not the same.
Exactly.
For example, Satyam goes to parties in pajamas and all, and he gets away with it. Bhai, kyun hai? Arey bhai, he's into tech and he's tech genius, stuff like that. People know him for his work. Generally, people know men for their work, for their profession. They don't give much importance to appearance. But as women, I feel that even after being good at my work, society still wants me to dress up in a certain way and look in a certain way. There are some days when I just don't want to look presentable. I just want to lie down in my shabby pajamas and shabby oversized t-shirts and be myself. But societal expectations.
Again, with neurodivergent women, it's so much more difficult to keep up with those. Like I have never gotten my nails done because I know I would not be able to keep up with them. I would just not, wash my hair because I don't have the energy to. Even when I want to, right? It's not always choosing comfort. It's also about I intentionally want to get dressed, but I do not have the energy or the spoons to get dressed.
This also gives rise to body image issues in women, actually. I personally got those quite early on. I'm still battling with those issues, body image issues. Slowly and steadily, I think I'll win this fight, but as of now, I am struggling with that.
I completely get that. I have actually come across a lot of ND women who do have body dysmorphia or who do struggle with self-image issues, and where they have very low self-esteem and very low confidence even when they are a literal diva, like how you are, right? I'm like, do we not see our worth? So, we should just know our worth and add tax to it, but then here we are just undermining our potential and who we are.
So Vanshita, I think that being a woman with ADHD also comes with some physical limitations. What do you have to say about that? For example, I have noticed this, that periods are extremely painful for me since I was a child, like since I was a teenager.
I would tell you what. So basically ADHD in women, even autism or a lot of other health conditions in women have been researched so late that ADHD exists for decades. But women have only come into the research picture in between 2000 and 2010s. So every treatment option before that, all the diagnostic manual, whatever was there, is only solely based on the data that they have collected from men, right? Again, heterosexual white men mostly. So brown women in countries like India, we have not even been in the picture. Like even now, I don't think they have a data which puts into account not just ADHD, but also ADHD women who have gone through generational trauma, who live in a patriarchal society that does not let them express themselves, right? Where we cannot just go out date guys like we are in America and tell our parents about it. So we have a lot of things that we keep on hiding, and that kind of takes a lot of toll on our nervous system. So we are always in a state of freeze and just freeze. So we become non-functional, we become extremely scared. We also store a lot of emotions in our bodies somewhere, which means we have a lot of mobility issues in terms of stress, pain on our shoulders or on the back or all of that. And then to integrate that with our menstrual cycle, right, is just a different ball game because we just don't even know what's happening. The medicines have not been tested on our bodies, so we don't know how it's affecting our uterus because men do not have a uterus and the medicines have never been tested on a uterus. So I mean, how are these people just giving us medicines that are not made for our body, and then when we complain about say period pain and all of that, they're like you're being over dramatic or our moms never went through it, because we just ingesting everything that is not made for our bodies. A big chunk of ADHD women, I'm forgetting the percentage, go through something called PMDD, which is premenstrual dysphoric disorder, which is basically where PMS, premenstrual syndrome, the symptoms of PMS are amplified to a very large extent, where some women also feel extremely depressed and suicidal a week before their period. These are things that nobody talks about because even a gynac would not be able to tell you what's wrong with you. Like I have been to gynacs since 11th standard, ever since I started facing a lot of pain during my period. Before that, I did not really have a lot of pain. It was fine with me. I would just navigate life like that. And then they checked me for PCOS, PCOD, endometriosis, all of that, the common things. And then they had no other things to test me for. So they were just like, you just have a vitamin deficiency. But vitamin deficiencies would not want to make me kill myself before my period, right? And even now that I know that I have PMDD and so I'm having these thoughts, every month I go through that same cycle. But whenever I remind myself that Vanshita, it's just your PMDD maybe. I have not been diagnosed, so I don't know if that's for sure. But again, I feel very highly of it because I have researched a lot. Again, so I tell myself maybe Vanshita, this is PMDD. But then I'm like, even if it's PMDD, it's telling you the right things. You are worthless and all of that. And that cycle continues. And then when it ends, then maybe I feel a pang of relief sometimes. There have been times where the pain has been so much, where the emotional, just the emotional, I don't know, the burden or the thoughts or all of that, where I feel extremely lethargic, extremely non-productive, where I question my entire existence, gets so difficult that I have actually even, tried doing something to myself. And then I stopped that, okay, I'm better off than this. So I know that there are lots of women who do go through, this, and they have no answers for it. They have no idea what's happening. So it's extremely important that we speak about our struggles and understand that it's not just them, because I felt so alone for years in my life, even after my diagnosis, because I had no place to talk to about these, right? Even friends who don't go through these would just sit and listen to you, but they would not be able to provide you that space. But talking to you and seeing that, okay, we actually struggle so much, we laugh about it. We're sitting and laughing, right? Because maybe that's a coping mechanism or whatever. But it kind of feels like, okay, I'm not alone in this, and that is so freaking important, to have that space.
That is so reassuring, in fact.
Exactly. Where you don't feel like, okay, I am not the only person going through this.
And it also gives you a boost of self-confidence that there are women like me functioning in this society, living their lives normally, and are talking about their experiences. And even talking about experiences and navigating through it helps other women to navigate easily through that. Those women who haven't come out yet, I'm talking about those people. And what about making another video on PMDD? Specifically talking about that. What's it?
I would love that for sure. Let us do that soon. So yeah, stay tuned for a video on PMDD.
As you talked about ADHD research being very limited and not customized enough for women, this has been a case in medical history since a long time. Women's needs seldom take center stage in medical research, which is awful. And this needs to change.
I need that on a t-shirt.
Let's print out some t-shirts and walk on the road.
Let's go. Yes, and I think it's not just ADHD but also everywhere that we just get neglected. So that also explains why we are so full of rage all the time. So it's all the men who are gonna hate or who hate us on Instagram mostly, where we are pro-feminisms. I mean, yeah. I mean, my rage is gonna come to you, of course. It's very natural.
Yes.
Yes, and Falak makes really nice content on health, ADHD, otherwise everything. I will put her Instagram link in the description. Go check that out. Let us know if you want to buy our code t-shirts.
Yes.
Stay tuned for the PMDD videos. Stay tuned for all other videos also. And if you have watched so far, thank you so much. We really love you. We are not very expressive. Only when you are in our house is when we are expressive, not on the internet.
Yes, only when you talk to us in real and meet us in real life.
Yes, that is also not guaranteed. Again, bye-bye. Thank you for staying. Do everything that you see on the screen, like, share, whatever. And yeah, send it to all the women in your life. Everybody needs to be aware of what's happening. And maybe their struggles are not really visible to you, but they might be going through some things. Like how for me, even I think my family and friends would never be able to understand that I was really struggling with something unless I started telling them about it, right? So maybe this video might give them some courage to come up and talk about things, or maybe get a test or whatever. So yes, please do that. And yes, bye-bye.
Bye.